Hey YouTube, so I just want to do a quick video because it's about turbocharging a chainsaw. Can you do it? Fuck yeah, you can. No problem. Well, not really. There is a problem. So I was watching a video and someone actually I really admire, Bodie, Novice Lumberjack. I fucking love his channel. Check it out. If you haven't already, which I assume you have. If you're watching my crappy channel, you probably watch some good content too. But anyways, can you turbocharge chainsaw? Yeah, you can. Can you turbocharge two-stroke? Yeah, you can. My reasoning behind that, and two words: Screaming Jimmy. That if you don't know what that is, that was a two-stroke. I think it was a Detroit diesel design that was in a GMC and Chevy pickups, or like the medium-duty ones, like grain trucks and shit, in like the 60s and 70s. So what does that mean? So here we got this is a cylinder from a Chinese Zenoa clone. Got the exhaust port, you got the intake port. So if you hooked a turbo to the exhaust, to the intake, say you had not enough exhaust pressure actually to pump that out, which there is exhaust pressure. When that mixture explodes, you got a shit ton of pressure and it doesn't want to go out. So you have an excessive pressure. It's probably, in the high hundreds of psi when it explodes. I don't know the exact numbers, so don't go into that too much. But anyways, so how can you turbocharge this? Well, as Bodie said, you start dumping turbocharge into the intake port. It's going to pressurize the case, blow out seals. Piston won't be able to work its way down. Oh, it probably will be able, but it's going to slow it down. It'll be like it's going through tar, right? So how can you overcome that? Well, that's where a two-stroke diesel comes in. So I don't have a cutaway of chainsaw, but I do have a paper towel tube. So we got exhaust, turbo, and intake. And the way to solve that is you add another port to a cylinder, and that port opens as the piston comes down to bottom dead center. So I'm just spewing off random numbers here. So say 10 degrees before bottom dead center, that short but long exhaust intake port gets revealed, and that's boost pressure. So the boosted charge never has to go in the crankcase. So piston comes down, and somewhere above the intake port, where the intake port would be, you have another port that just takes that charge. And when that charge comes in, say it's like 15 psi. That 15 psi will go in there. It'll help push out the exhaust gases that are already high pressure. Well, help push it out, so it'll actually help spool up the turbo a little bit. Now you need a small turbo. I don't think they make turbos small enough for applications, so you need a saw like a Husqvarna 3120, or with the big steel 090, something with a huge displacement, so you can actually use the smallest turbocharger you can actually buy. So here's my little cardboard tube diagram. So piston's at top of the center. Spark plug goes bzz, opens up the exhaust port. Exhaust starts coming out at the several hundred psi that's coming out at. Piston gets pushed down, and all of a sudden hits the turbo port. The turbocharged, say it's 15 psi, gets pushed in there, helps push out the exhaust gas, and puts a fresh charge in there, and then the piston starts going back up to the whole thing again. So there you can have boost in the cylinder, and hopefully enough exhaust pressure to run the turbo. Like I said, you need a small turbo. I don't think they make anything small enough practical, but if they did, you could use this. So where's the big dilemma? Big dilemma is, how does the bottom end and the wrist pin bearing get oil? That is a big fucking problem. So all of a sudden you could have an oil pump pumping shit into this if someone purposely built one that way. But then all of a sudden you have a really heavy chainsaw and a lot of moving parts and a lot of crap to go wrong. But here's the thing, if you're running a turbo on chainsaw, chances are you're doing it for a race competition. And if you're doing it for a race competition and just to run that saw through it as fast as you fucking can, there's the perfect solution. And what's that perfect solution? Well, you still have an intake port. an intake port that when the piston goes up, is my nice little cutaway. When the piston goes up, creates vacuum, 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 vacuum. Poof! It sucks in intake. And why is that important? Because if it's a race only saw, you have a second carburetor attached to that port. So when it goes up, it's still going to suck in an oil and gas mixture, not to be combusted, just for the sake of lubrication. And then what you would do is you would make another tube coming off here and have a reed valve or some kind of check valve, so it only allows pressure out this way. So that way, when the piston goes up, it'll suck in oil and gas for the sole purpose of lubricating the bottom end, and it'll go back and then it'll push that mixture back out of the cylinder. And if you want to be really fancy, you could probably figure a way to scavenge that fuel and gas back into the whole system, and that probably could be done. But the thing is, I've seen what some people have done with machine gun chainsaws. You could totally turbo a chainsaw if you find a turbo small enough, or find a chainsaw big enough. It can totally be done. If you see a flaw in my logic, I don't explain things well, but just think of that. Like, all the pressure is just above the piston. Because you look at a diagram of Screaming Jimmy. Yes, the Screaming Jimmy has spring exhaust ports, but the thing is, it's still a two-stroke, and it's working the same principle as a two-stroke gas engine. Just boom, down, boom, down, boom, down, boom, down, boom, down. That's all it does. And it only works because it is turbocharged. If it wasn't turbocharged, a two-stroke diesel would not function. So the same concepts will happen on gas. Having said that, if you were to run a turbocharger on a chainsaw, I imagine that would be an instance where you want by like 94 octane race gas. You want, or something over 100. You want a high octane, because otherwise you got a lot of pressure there. Shit's gonna detonate, right? But anyways, you can totally turbo a chainsaw if you really, really want to, and you can find a turbo small enough, or machine one, because that is doable. And if it's a race saw, I gave you a solution to oil it. Because like I said, it's so simple. Because you got the bottom end doing its pulsing, and just have a secondary carburetor, oil and gas just for lubing it. And you could like mix it like, you know, like 16:1, who cares? It's just for lubrication. On the bottom end. Top end is already taken care of. Anyways, YouTube, take it easy. That's my little rant, and you can totally turbo a gas chainsaw two-stroke with caveats.